Hi guys, this is Barbara from GIS Cloud. Welcome to our webinar, GIS Cloud Track, Key Benefits of Real-Time Tracking. Here with me is Igor, who is also joining in.
Yeah, hi guys, thank you all for joining. We have a full house here, I would say, and still a lot more of you are joining, but they will pick it up. We'll also have a recording afterwards, so we'll definitely send you that as well. Like I said, thank you all for joining. I see a lot of familiar faces from distant lands of Arizona and Australia, so thank you. We have an exciting webinar in front of us. So yeah, happy to hear your feedback on that as well. We've prepared an agenda for today. We'd like to talk about what actually is GIS Cloud Track, what are the benefits of using a system like this one, and maybe the most important part of the webinar is to show you how the application looks like, how it works, and of course we'll then save some time for questions and answers in the end. So please do ask these questions. You can see the panel, I believe, where you can type those in and we can answer them at the end, of course. Okay, I think we're ready to start, but before we actually get started, we'd like to ask you a couple of questions. So can we release a poll, Barbara?
Yes, we can. You should be getting a couple of questions right about now.
So we'd appreciate your feedback on this. Well, let's have like 45 seconds for that. We can then share the results with you as well.
Okay, we can see some answers coming in, maybe just a few more seconds.
Okay, let's wait a bit more. Great. So the question is, do you already track devices or vehicles with a fleet management tool? And 27% of you actually say that you do already use something, that you have something in place, but 70% of you don't have anything in place. And of course, with that said, you're trying to implement a field management system in your organization to do that, but some of you are already trying to see if there's any replacement as well. So thank you for that. I think we can end the poll.
Yes, we can.
Okay, so I think this is a proper webinar to attend in this case. So we've kind of nailed it with the latest product we've actually released a couple of weeks ago. But first, what did we release? So what is GIS Cloud Track? So it's, I would say, self-explanatory, right? It's a cloud-based application that enables you to track people, fleet, and assets, right? So we do that by tracking the GPS location from either GPS units that you've maybe installed into vehicles, or from recently smart devices like smartphones, but also from sensors that can send you that information. Essentially, why would you do that? By having a real-time location and insight into movements and trends of your crews, you can get a lot more information that helps your decision making, that further optimizes the costs, that can validate the things that you do in the field, etc. Right? We will talk about these benefits, but essentially the system is used for fleet management purposes. Let's call it like that. Before we get started with the new application and what we built, we just want to mention that we've been in fleet management industry for more than 10 years, actually. So we are currently tracking thousands and thousands of vehicles at this very moment. All of them are actually tracked through GPS units. We even have like snow plows that we track during winter seasons and track salt dispensers, fuel consumption. So, but most of them are actually within Croatian borders, because to install a GPS unit and make sure that it's properly connected, that you have proper data plans, it's been let's say a showstopper for a lot of customers that are outside our country, let's go like that, that can't install these devices by themselves. So we've gotten a lot of feedback from our existing customers who use, for example, our mobile data collection application, whether they can collect or whether they can track the movement of their collection crews. And that's exactly what we did. That's what we wanted to do in the market and release something that I would say you asked for, right? So what's actually new? The biggest part, I would say, is the ability or an application or an option within mobile data collection application to track yourself, whether you have an iOS or Android device. We support it. We support it all. We support it all. The biggest, as I mentioned, the biggest, I would say, showstopper for a lot of organizations was how can we install these GPS units into our vehicles? How much does it cost? Do we have the budgets for separate data plans for these devices? How can we connect it with the system, and what do we get out of it? Is it worth it, etc. So the deployment phase for a lot of these organizations was a crucial part and a crucial reason why they're actually not using anything at all. And there are a lot of organizations that have fleet management systems in place that already help them optimize costs, improve their decision making, etc. So fleet management industry, it's not a new industry. It's really established billion-dollar industry, right? But with smartphone devices, we think will definitely disrupt. Let's call it to disrupt the market. With that said, we do track GPS units as well. Okay. In addition to that, we've also released a completely new revamped front end or a browser application for reviewing and managing all the data that you receive from these units, right? So a completely new fleet management system. And we released a mobile-based application for all reviewing the data, because let's say you're in the field, you want to see the locations of your crew members, you want to react in time, you have to have something that's available in the field as well. So these three new components, we've been working on those for a long time now, and we feel like it's definitely ready for the markets. And I think the timing is really good. But before we show you the actual product, let's talk about benefits. So a lot of you already mentioned that you do have something in place, right? So if you had the budget to obtain these GPS units, to install them into your vehicles, if you had the time and resources and a know-how to connect it with a fleet management, then over time you definitely got that value out of it, benefits, right? That's what our current customers with GPS units do, right? But now with smart devices, we've made that process really easy for organizations that don't have it. And the question now is presented, why should we even have it? Okay, fine. Now we don't have to lose the time and money on the GPS units. We can use smart devices, but why? What are the benefits? First and foremost, I think in any organization, it's all about safety, right? So I would argue that simply by having a real-time location on a map of your crew members helps you to either inform them or others and react in real time according to real conditions and situations in the field, especially in disaster management, emergency situations, etc. Right? So, for example, if you want to compare these real-time locations with weather conditions that you have from other data source, right? Or for when you want to compare hazardous areas and coordinate your crews around those. You can also do that. You can only do that with a system like this one. For example, the screenshots that you see here, this is a real life example that we have. National Fire Department in Croatia is using our tool, and not just tracking. They're using our mobile data collection and GIS to coordinate and have, for example, information about hydrants in place, so they could coordinate and go to the locations and plan how to extinguish fires, right? So that's also one thing that they could do. Also, what it proved, the tool proved to be a crucial one, especially a couple of years ago when there was a huge earthquake here in Croatia. You've probably heard about it. They used our system to coordinate crews in the field, to visit all the locations, to plan and see and ensure the safety of their crews in the area, right? So for them, it's a must-have solution. And when we're talking about benefits, we always try to talk about what are the must-have things, not nice to have. Okay, it would be nice to have something and see it on map, but why would be a must-have? It needs to be a must-have. So the safety is definitely a must-have key value proposition. Then a second benefit that is, I would say, more aimed to managers who are managing crews or maybe contractors that are doing field work for them, is the job validation part. So simply by answering or having a tool that can answer these questions is a benefit in itself, right? For example, you have teams in the field that are doing a certain job. Did they visit all the designated locations? How long were they at a specific site? Because sometime when you know that they need to be at a specific location for a specific amount of time, for let's say 30 minutes, and they've, for example, only visited that location for 5 minutes, you know that the job was not properly done, right? So you can ask them about it. Or there was an example with one of the customers, they paid out the commission to the contractors according to the mileage. So with this system, you can actually confirm, yes, they went to the designated locations, the mileage they reported is correct, and they used it properly. They didn't, drive around parking lots or something like that, because we had that example as well. So you can definitely use that for job validation, performance analysis. Was the job done on time? Of course, how many locations were visited? And you can then use some all that information for additional decision making to maybe improve some of the low performing or praise high performing workers, right? And then for the guideline assurance, considering the features like geofencing or reports that give information about who, how safe they are driving, if they're speeding, if they're maybe visiting or going to some restricted areas, can help you with the guidelines when you educate your crews on how they need to behave, let's call it like that, in the field. Simply by having and gathering all that information and all of that through a smartphone only, you can be a lot more, let's say, smart in your decision making, right? And last but not least, of course, cost optimization. Everything comes down to how worth it is it to me, right? So why is it a must-have on that end? And basically what we've learned, that system like this, and I think the people that said that they are already using fleet management, they can confirm that the system pays for itself. How? It pays for itself by understanding, okay, what is the behavior of my crews in terms of speeding, how many fuel are they consuming, or what paths they've taken. All that information can help you improve and plan better. That can reduce overall costs. Also, I would say the main part is crew coordination. Let's say you have people already deployed in the field, and then you have to, let's say, a client that needs to report that something needs to be visited, then you will send the nearest crew member to that location. Of course, you will not just save the time and money, but you will also react, really fast with that client. So simply by having an overview of people in the field on top of, let's say, existing client information that you have in your GIS system, or on top of existing data asset information that you've collected with data collection, you can combine it all to make these proper decisions. It's all about whether the information that you get is worthy to you. And I think that the past with fleet management system has proven us that yes, it is worth it. And now that's even more so, because now you don't have to spend time with GPS units and the deployment and all that part. So really excited about this one. Okay, there are many benefits, and we'd like to hear your thoughts on that as well. But let's see if we can actually show you how you can get all that information, how you can make this decision better, right? Okay, in this case, Barbara, you are a manager who's managing the data, the crews, and all that, right?
Yes. And you should be collecting some data for me, I think.
Yeah, I will be collecting data for you. So let's see how this looks like and what is necessary from a person or a data collector, or from a person who's being collected perspective, right? Okay, for that, I'd like to share screens, my mobile phone, like this. So for us, when we thought about, okay, now we want to enable data collection or tracking capabilities, what do we have to keep in mind? We have to keep in mind that people that are being tracked need to be able to control when they're being tracked, right? Because of you don't have to be tracked throughout the whole day, right? Only when you're working, and you can actually decide whether you want to be tracked or not. So simply by having this option, you can turn it on and off, and you control it in that way. But also what's really important, that you don't have to, if you already, for example, use a mobile data collection application for data collection, you don't want to have two separate applications to maintain two separate systems. That's why we implemented it into mobile data collection. With that said, we will release a dedicated app for tracking for those users that don't need, let's say, data collection application. Also, the most important part is this is the deployment part. They don't need to install anything. They don't need to do anything. They simply have to go to settings and click on. And that's pretty much it. The application will then track their position even when the application is in the background. Of course, if they turn it off or they turn off the option, then they won't be tracked. But this is it. From my end, my job is done.
Okay, pretty simple, at least for you. There you go. So now that we've seen how the tracking is set up in the first place for the person who is actually being tracked, let's see how we can see their movements and how we can then manage the data and get the most out of it. So what you're seeing here is basically our revamped track web application. So as Igor mentioned, this did exist for almost 10 years now, but in a bit of a different user interface. And now it's completely revamped and let's say it came to the 21st century. So what do we have when we first log into our track application? Of course, you can see a full list of all of the units that you have on your application. And in this case, you can actually see one was active just a few minutes ago. I think that was maybe your phone, Igor. And of course, we can see our map with all of the users that are here on it. The great thing and kind of one of the major benefits of having this tracking system integrated within GIS Cloud is that not only can you use just the default maps that we have here, is that you can also use any maps that you've prepared before. So any data collection project that you've used, any map that you created that you would like to use, that's something you can then implement and simply have it set up here. Okay, so let's take a look. And there we go. So now we have our custom map that we set up in GIS Cloud. This was, I think, in Map Editor. And we have our data collection project already imported here, all of the data, which means that you can now see everything. So it's not just a blank map with the users kind of running around on it, you actually have the context. So for instance, in this case, this is a map with maintenance for traffic signals. So if maybe any new traffic signals needed some attention, you can also maybe see which crew or which user is kind of the closest. So that's already one piece of information that you weren't able to have with just the regular data collection that is now available for you with the track. So what else can we see and what kind of information can we get from our web track application? Well, of course, you can see all of the live information from the users. So as soon as they start driving around or just walking down, you'll be able to see that movement. But that's not the only thing that matters. Of course, you would like to have some kind of history. You want to know where they went before. You want to see maybe did they actually visit some locations of interest. So for that, we have a separate history tab below. So let's maybe take one of our users here as an example. Let's see, maybe this one. And let's see their history. So when you're taking a look at their history, you can also choose what kind of parameters you're looking at. And here we have speed and altitude, but this is all something that you can manage through the different information display settings. So this not only gives you the option to choose what kind of parameters you're getting in the graph and the history, it also allows you to change what information you're seeing in the unit list, what information you're seeing on the map. So everything is fully customizable. Of course, you'll see here a lot of these information may not be available from a phone. Of course, a phone doesn't have a fuel probe, but it is something that can be set up if you have the correct sensors for that. Okay, so let's take a look at our speed graph and our history for this user. We can also choose a specific date for which we're taking a look. So let's say February 19th, and we can also modify the time, and let's see. And let's show our path. And there we go. So we can now see where that user went between 12 a.m. on February 19th and 6:45 p.m. You can also see a full graph that lists their speed. You can also see all of the stops they made.
I think someone was speeding.
Just overtaking.
Yeah.
So there you go. So that's a lot of information that you have here just from a mobile phone. So there was no additional GPS units installed. It's just their mobile phone essentially on their seat next to the driver.
In their pockets.
In their pockets, exactly. Okay, so now that we have all of this information, let's see what else we can get. Of course, you see the history here, but let's say that you want to be alerted when maybe a user gets to a certain point on their route, or maybe you want to be alerted when they start speeding, like here, for example. So there are a couple of different options that you can also use within the Track web application that are listed here. So let's actually start from the bottom. So POI allows you, so place of interest, allows you to add new places of interest on your map, which can then later be used either for setting up different alerts or just for reporting. So for example, as Igor mentioned, if you want to define in which area a user should be working in, you can set it up so that they receive some kind of a notification when they either exit this area or if they maybe enter a restricted access area. Or simply if you want to know where they are so that you get an alert at that time. So let's set one up. Let's set some checkpoints.
Yeah, I think the common term for that is geofencing as well. I think a lot of you will understand the term as well. So it's a pretty cool feature, absolutely.
Exactly. So you can set different types of geometries here. So for example, we can set a point right about here. And let's say that this one is our checkpoint Osilo. And for a point, you can also set up a buffer so that, you know, of course, with the GPS, you need a bit of a buffer for that area. So we can take a look and we have our buffer now. So pretty simple. You can also set up polygons. So instead of just a map, drawing a polygon or a geofence for an area that either the user should be working in, or maybe it's restricted for them. Okay, so now that we have our POIs, we can also set up different alerts for them. So another piece of information that you can get here. Alerts are basically real-time notifications or emails that you will receive when something happens. So you can create different types of alerts. For example, if a user enters or exits the place of interest that you've defined, or for if you have the correct sensors, if you have a fuel drop, or if there's maybe a service that is coming up. But in this case, let's maybe set up a speeding alert so that we can get notified when a user starts speeding. So of course, we can set up an alert name. Let's call it speeding alert. You can define how the email will be called, and you can also set at what interval you're getting refreshed alerts. So let's say we'll check this every 30 minutes. And for each alert, you can set it up either for all of the units, or you can define just for one specific unit. So let's say we want the speeding alert just for the Hyundai or something like that. Or of course, all units. You can also choose labels if you set up any. And what's most important is you can also choose the date. So for which dates you're going to set up alerts. So let's say maybe you're not going to give those alerts on the weekends. Apart from that, you should also set up the parameters. So at what point is it considered speeding? So let's say if they're driving maybe 15 kilometers per hour or over, let's say like that. I think that goes fine. And that's it. We can go ahead and create an alert. And now we can see that we're going to get if speeding occurs, we will get a new alert every 30 minutes. But apart from alerts, which are kind of like real-time information, you can definitely also generate different reports. So based on previous historical data that you've basically collected, you can set up different types of reports. Now you can see 4 different kinds that we have here. What I will be showing you is the standard one because it has a lot of different custom parameters that you can set up. But the difference is that POI reports, driver status, and unit status reports are a bit more specified. So let's actually create a new report, and you can see you can have plenty of different ones here. Reports can also be created either for all of the units or just for specific ones. If you have drivers set up, drivers assigned to specific units, you can also choose the drivers here. For all reports, you can set up at what intervals do they repeat. So that's good because you don't have to keep generating the same report every day. You don't have to kind of be clicking around here every day, starting from scratch. You simply set it up that it repeats, let's say weekly, and once a week, you just come here and download your report, or you can also send yourself an email with this report as well. So let's say that this time we're not going to be repeating the report, and we can then define a start and an end date. So let's say we want information from last week. You can also include or remove days of the week. And now for the kind of the most important part of the report, what are you actually reporting? So what kind of information are you selecting? You can set a stop report or a temperature report, but the custom one really is the kind of most powerful here because it's you who is choosing exactly what you want here. And you can see that there's a lot of information that you can include. There's a lot of information that can help you make better business decisions. So let's see what we'll be including over here. Maybe let's say length, and maybe we can include the addresses or when the POI is either entered or exited. And let's say we want to know the maximum speed as well. So you can see a lot of information here that you can include. Of course, for some, you do need to have those sensors, but there's definitely a lot that you can get from it either way. There you go. You can select an alternative report name if you want, or if not, just simply create a new report. Let's actually say that this is a POI and speeding report. Okay, and that's it. The report is being generated, so you'll see here that it's in progress. In the meantime, you can definitely go ahead and create some other reports if you like. And we can also see one that is already here, or we can also wait a few more seconds here. So let's take a look.
Yes, so the reporting part is a huge component of our fleet management system. Like I said, that we've been building for more than 10 years now. There's a lot of algorithms and a lot of things happening in the background, I would say. So while that's happening, we can send you a report to your email when that's done, right? These reports can be extremely complex if you need them to be. So,
of course. Okay, so that's about it for the web part. I think we can also maybe show.
Yeah, I think that's I think it really comes down to, you know, you do get a lot of information from this system, right? And now it's just a matter of, it was the problem. The problem was with how do I get that information and how do I process it? This is the system that helps you get that information, to process it properly. And now it's down to you whether how you will use that information. We've given you a couple of examples and the benefits that our existing customers are getting from it. But in the end, it really comes down to what you're looking out of the system and how you will use it. And we would definitely like to learn from it. Also, the last piece of the solution of puzzle is the mobile part for managers who are in the field and need to have an overview of, you know, what you essentially have here, right? So let's go back to this screen. Okay, reflector. Let's share my screen again. In the meantime, you can see a report. Okay. So you can see my screen now. So I've shown you the NDC app that is used for, you know, tracking your location. But if you go to track, then you can see that I can also open that same application, that same, let's say, organization, and go to a certain unit and find its location, get its history, and do whatever I need to do. I can locate myself according to this, and basically use this to maybe coordinate or the thing is, this is a crucial part for the real-time aspect of it all, right? You get that information in real time, and then you want to have, you know, want to be able to access it in real time. That's why we have the mobile part as well. So that's the last piece of the product. Obviously, there's a lot more to show, and we'll host a lot more webinars and sessions and videos, and we'll do one-on-one demos and all that. But in the end, I think the last question I think we need to answer is, why GIS Cloud Track? Why tracking? Why fleet management from GIS Cloud? Why would you go with our solution, right? And I already mentioned it a couple of times, but I think the plug and play part is a crucial one, especially for the organizations that don't have anything in place. They want to test it out. They want to get these benefits, but avoiding the complexity of installing GPS devices or spending fortune on something like that, right? It's also really good for organizations that already have something in place, but really couldn't afford to track all of their vehicles, or if they want to expand tracking to on a personal level, actually. So you can track your vehicles, but what happens when you have emergency teams visiting, you know, forests or locations that can be accessed through, you know, with vehicles, right? So in that way, you can actually track a specific person. So that's one thing. I would say what Barbara showed was the GIS part and integration. So everything that you already done in GIS Cloud, maybe, or in any GIS system for that matter, you can bring it into this solution and have it as an additional layer of information that you can use for improving your decision-making process, right? Not a lot of fleet management system can actually, I would say, brag with that information, right? They don't have a full-blown through GIS and data collection tools they're already integrated with the tracking system. So I would say an all-in-one solution, right? And it's a cloud-based, right? So everything's it's a 21st century, it's in the cloud technology, and everything that cloud brings to the table in terms of accessing it on any device from anywhere, even in offline environments, something that we have to mention. You can track people in offline with smartphones. Everything that cloud brings to the table is introduced here in GIS Cloud, right? We didn't mention the technology, the map engine as well, the part that helps us render these maps and data and reports in a really, really fast manner. So you probably noticed how fast this all is, which is also really important. It works, it's really robust, and it's extremely, extremely fast, no matter the amounts of data that you have on a map, no matter the layers that you have and everything that you have. So that's how we see it, but we would like to hear your thoughts on that, answer your questions. I think it's time for questions.
Yes, it is. So let's take a look. We already have some in the chat and some here in our Q&A. So let's go ahead and start with the first one. Can you define the geofencing area from an existing polygon layer that you have uploaded instead of drawing it? Yes, you can. So I don't know, maybe you've seen, but before I drew the polygon and the point, we had that option to also basically take an existing database that you already have within GIS Cloud. So that's a yes.
Yeah, I think the great example with data collection part is, for example, let's say you have a table that has all the points or polygons that are being collected by your data collection crews. If you use that table as a data source for geofencing, then these new features will actually appear on the map in real time and will be included in new reports that are being generated. So you don't have to do anything, everything is already integrated. Okay, we have another question.
Next one. Is the device being tracked when the screen has been turned off on the iPhone, or the GIS Cloud app must run at all times? Screen can be turned off in order to be tracked properly.
Great question.
It is. And that's kind of the best thing, because you don't have to have the application turned on at the whole time that you're being tracked. You can simply turn off your screen, put it in your pocket, and just continue on your day. You'll still be sending that information to the web track.
Yeah, as long as the application is in the background, you will receive the location in real time, yes. Yeah.
Okay. Can we have access to the data while working offline? So
in offline environments, for example, there is a system that we have offline map functionality, so you can download everything on the device and look at the data, of course, in offline mode. But when it comes to real-time tracking, obviously you want to have real-time locations if you're not connected to the internet. But when you're in offline mode, the application still collects GPS locations. And then when you get in range of 4G, 5G, Wi-Fi networks, then all that information is sent to the browser part or to the mobile part, and then you see it.
Okay, maybe next one. Can you set block, like for high vehicles, if there is a bridge or something? And can the drivers ask for the route? So not only tracking.
So I would say that something like this could be set up with the geofencing part. You can let's say create an alert that says you've entered an area with low bridges, pay more attention, they will be notified about it. But also we have other tools like Map Viewer that can enable you to create custom maps, not just let's say Google Maps for navigation, but also custom maps with all the, let's say, custom information like low bridges or any other information. And vehicles or anyone who's driving can see their location on top of that custom map and see, okay, I'm nearing a location that may be of danger to myself. So yes, it's possible to do it like that. When it comes to routing, there's no way in our tracking application, you can't say this is a point A, point B, create me the best possible route. This is not a routing tool. With that said, one of the key benefits of GIS Cloud is the platform part that enables you to integrate with anything that's out there. So routing is a huge in that industry, and there are dedicated companies that work only with routing, even open source free tools for that. And if needed, we can integrate in that sense as well. There are also levels of routing, right? What kind of parameters you take into account. So we can build a tool according to your needs and requirements.
Okay, let's see some more. How about the data storage capacity? Is it charged? How long can the data be stored online?
A great question. So as you can imagine, we keep tracking and they store huge amounts of data, considering the locations that you sent. And so we could show it as, as a path. We don't charge for the data that's additionally for the data that's been stored. So yeah, we keep records of the locations for a year. That's what we're currently doing with existing customers. So they could pull up reports for these vehicles for the past year, right? But we'll let you know if something changes. But yes, we don't charge extra for all these locations that are being collected while tracking.
Let's see some more questions. Okay, so I think we answered that one. If the NDC device setting is no for send using cellular data network, does the device save the track in a queue until a wireless internet connection is available? Yeah, I think that we touched on that.
Yeah, great question. So that's the offline capability of it. You can still be in offline remote areas. The device will collect GPS locations, and when you get in range, all these locations will be sent to the track application.
Okay, can you see the tracked cars in Map Viewer, or do you use another application? So that's a separate application, Track, where you can actually see on your mobile phone the vehicles or the users if they're just using their phone. And of course, you can use the web application, the Track web app.
Yes, essentially it's a map viewer with extra functionality.
Okay, I see we have some over here as well. Can we connect the GIS Cloud with other systems, such as the ERP system?
Absolutely. So the platform part, I would actually say we have a lot of products that are out of the box ready for, use cases like this one, and we have customers using those, signing up and creating. But the main product, as I see it, is our platform that enables you to integrate with anything that's out there. We just need to know and understand your needs, requirements, and we'll do it. So yes, short answer is yes. I think we have a great question about what is the pricing model as well. So the pricing is something that we can talk about. This is something that will be released officially for you to purchase in April, 1st of April, I would say. And until then, we will release the pricing plans as well. So
okay. Let's see. Is it possible to install the application on a private server, for example, in a company that does not want to have its tracking information in the cloud?
I think you know the answer to that one. We've been working with a lot of customers that already deployed. We call it a private cloud instance or server. Any application, any GIS Cloud application can be installed in a private service, including Track. So yes, short answer is yes.
Okay, does a French version exist?
Great question. We do have French version of our editor and other applications. Consider this is a fairly new application. We will translate it to French as well. For now, it's not available, but it will be, and it can be sooner than later if it's something that you want to implement. So we'll talk about it.
Okay, we have two very similar ones. So how do you handle information confidentiality factor? So
I have to mention, we are fully GDPR compliant, meaning that we take privacy things and policies extremely serious. We have to because of the laws as well. It's the same with anything that you do in any other application that you from GIS Cloud. For example, mobile data collection, when you collect the data, you're collecting information about assets and where you're going. But basically, according to that information, we can understand and know your location. Now, this is more direct, right? Collecting information. So how do we maintain all that? We are already doing that through the policies that we have, through the terms of use that we have, through the infrastructure that we've set up, through all these, let's say, rules and regulations that we follow. We are taking care of that part. Cloud technologies are really sensitive to that part. So yes, we have to take it extremely seriously. We've gone through many screenings and clients who had that question. So yes, I assure you that's completely safe. And of course, when they are first when they first log in and they want to be tracked, we inform them about the implications. Now you will give your consenting to sending your location to someone who has access in your organization, etc., etc. But no one else can actually access it other than managers as well.
And of course, that's why you have the option to turn off the tracking.
You have to be in control, like with everything.
Can a report be exported in different formats, such as GDB, shapefiles?
That's an excellent question. We already had that one in one of our one-on-one demos that we had. Can the paths be exported into shapefiles? For now, the best way to do it is through an API, but I'm sure that in the near future, we can implement a feature that says, okay, export a path into a shapefile format or any other format. We're not locking you in a single format. That's also one thing that I definitely urge you to think about when you're choosing a system. Don't lock yourself into a single formats or solutions. We have a lot of questions.
A lot of questions.
We'll need to stop at one of them. Let's maybe a couple more.
Maybe a couple more. So, is it possible to use the tool on pedestrians?
Exactly. That's the idea. Yeah. So you, of course, if they are willing to, you can simply track someone without their knowing about it, right?
Okay. So, what if someone used a fake GPS application? That will happen.
What will happen?
Yeah.
Yeah, then you'll get fake GPS location. Yeah, so we really can't control that parts, but yeah, if they're willing to do that and if they know how to do it, then I'm not sure what the use case is.
Not much what we can do.
Yeah.
Okay, how is the data from sensors collected by Bluetooth?
Yeah, so the sensors usually have their own, let's say, devices that they send the information to certain servers, or GIS Cloud can connect directly to them through REST APIs. So it depends on the sensors that you use, but most of them usually have. There was a use case that we had where they showed water sensors deployed in a lake, and they wanted to be notified through GIS Cloud when the levels rose, and basically they could react in time. Okay, maybe we will have floods or something like that. So that was a real use case we had. I think the last question could be this one, which is the best one.
I think perfect to finish it off. How to access the application? Okay,
so this is a new product, and that's why we have a new product for, let's say, new customers, and for the new version of the application, and for the smartphone tracking. We have an early access invite. We are inviting all of you to join that early access. What we will then do is prepare an application for you, give you steps on what you need to do on your end. Spoiler alert, nothing much, maybe 2 steps that you need to make. And basically you'll have access within days. And then of course we can do a private session to show you around the application, to maybe understand more about your use case, how you want to use it, what are the benefits that you're looking to get out of it, etc. So Barbara, you've already done a couple of sessions with clients. So yeah, Barbara and of course myself and the team will be handling all these requests. There are many so far, but we're looking forward to working with all of you. So
that's not a problem. We can do that.
Yeah. Again, last question.
Before we finish off, maybe we have one more question for you guys, if that's okay.
Yeah, that's perfect.
Okay, there we go. So another poll, very short one, coming your way.
Yeah, we'd like to understand and get your feedback on this. Of course, we would like to speak with you one-on-one as well, but we can share the information with you guys. So the question is GIS Cloud Track something that you'd like to implement? And there are 2 options, yes and no. And for now, 100% of you said yes, this fits our needs. And I'm extremely happy to see that. So yeah, that's really good, really good.
We better get started on preparing all of those custom apps.
Yeah. Well, we kind of expected it, considering that we developed something that we've been asked to develop. So yeah, it kind of confirmed. So yeah. Perfect. So we're not faking anything there. 97% of you said yes, which is great. But that one person who said no, I want to talk to you. Okay, so thank you all for joining. We've opened a lot of topics, a lot of things to discuss. We're looking forward to working with you guys. We'll definitely be in touch with all of you. And yeah, please stay tuned for more information to come about Track. We will be in touch. We will have another webinar in a couple of weeks as well, where we'll show a real life use case with how to create a data collection project and how to connect it with tracking. And afterwards, we'll have a feature overview. So a lot more to look forward to. But I'm sure that in the meantime, you will already have access to the application and test it out. So.
Exactly. Okay. Thank you again, everyone. Looking forward to seeing all of you on our next webinar, and have a great rest of your day.
Yeah. Thank you guys. All right.